It's time for the Leadership Lunch Break with Joy Jackson of Speaking of Joy. Let's tune in for today's discussion with Crystal Garcia.
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Leadership Lunch Break. This is episode 31. I've been doing this a while. Thank you so much for joining me on this and every Thursday as we talk all things leadership. But as you know, if you've followed me, you've listened to me, I don't believe leadership is just about position or title. It is truly about your influence and responsibility. So my goal and my hope is to bring people to you who have influence and responsibility, but we want to talk about the total leader, the entire leader, to be the best leader you can be. And the only way to do that is to focus on all areas and aspects of your life. So today, this is the first guest that I have brought back. Yes. We're doing first. So July 1st, this is the first guest that I brought back. It's Crystal Garcia. Thank you and welcome back to the Leadership Lunch Break. Our conversation was so good last time. People were like, when are you going to have that girl back on? When are you gonna, the girl with the hair? I was like, hey, listen, I got you. So even before we left the last episode, which was actually episode 21, episode 21, then we booked immediately after that, this episode right here. So Crystal, thank you so much for joining the Leadership Lunch Break again. For people who have not met you, don't know much about you, tell them a little bit about who you are.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Joy, for having me back. I feel so honored, and I'm doing that dancing with my eyes thing again because I've also gone live on Instagram because I wanted to make sure I had an opportunity to really participate in this conversation. So those that are here on Instagram, hello, and I hope that you guys can hear. We're so excited to have you. So I am Crystal Garcia, and I help women, primarily corporate women, really figure out how to balance both business, motherhood, and just life, right? So I'm not a coach. I am someone who is in the trenches every day doing those exact things, trying to figure out balancing motherhood and business and building a business and, coming from corporate leadership into full-time entrepreneurship. That transition takes a lot and it stretches your leadership, right? So
Absolutely.
And I'm just so honored to be here and to have this conversation.
Awesome. Well, let me tell you, Crystal and I have known each other for quite some time. We are wonderful ladies of the Alpha Psi chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So we do have to acknowledge that and acknowledge our sorors. And so we've known each other since college. And let me tell you, when you meet people who are like-minded, who believe like you believe, you definitely want to connect with them. And so this is a lady who truly believes like I believe. She's a mom. She's a wife. She's an entrepreneur. She's a former executive. So our paths are just so parallel that I thought it was super important to invite her the first time and even now, because we talked about so many things the last time we were together. But one of the things that I believe that we miss in just leadership conversations in general is about health. And we never talk about healthy leaders. We talk about healthy leadership, but we never really talk about what it means to be a healthy leader. So this conversation is going to talk about physical health, mental health, emotional health, psychological health, financial health, spiritual health. We're going to do our best to help you and give you some tools and even share some stories about what it means to be a leader and to be a healthy leader so that you have a healthy team, a healthy marriage, healthy kids, a healthy life. Self-care is not as big an issue. So that's where we are. So I'm going to ask you right out of the gate, Crystal, how would you define health?
I define health as having both balance, healthy balance in life, as well as boundaries.
Okay.
Right? So it's those two things. It's balance and boundaries. And that's in everything. So whether it be what we eat, we have to have balance and we have to have boundaries. In our thoughts and what we say, we need to have balance and we need to have boundaries. In our spiritual health, we need to have balance and we need to have boundaries.
Yes.
And that could be interpreted a lot of different ways. But yes, you have to have balance because you need to create the balance to incorporate that spiritual life daily.
Absolutely.
And you need to have boundaries because you want to create the boundaries to make sure you have the space to do that. Mm-hmm. And then you also need to have boundaries in when you are on that deep spiritual walk, that you really know whose voice you're hearing from, right?
Absolutely.
Because you've got to make sure that you have boundaries on not everybody can speak into your life and all into your life and onto your life and all of that stuff. Boundaries there too. And I know, so I wanted to make sure I explained that a little bit before I just kind of stopped there. And then emotionally, you've got to have balance and you've got boundaries, because that's really at the end of the day how you, in my perception, you create the balance. You create the good health.
I think that's good. And it's funny because balance is something I think that we as women are struggling with or are learning, even in our mature ages, in our mature lives. We are just now getting to a point where we understand balance. And so for most of us, I know for me, when I was in corporate America and as an executive, it was really hard to have balance because there were so many avenues, and I wanted to be the 100% corporate woman. I wanted to be the best executive. I wanted to be the best this and the best that. And what I found, I was tiring myself out. Didn't matter how much I did, didn't matter. And then the more I did, the more people wanted from me because I seemed like Superwoman. So because I could do it all, and I was spinning all these plates and no plate dropped, people thought that I was doing a really good job when all I was doing was hurting myself. Yes.
And you just spoke a word right there, because what happens is even though you can do everything, we shouldn't do everything.
Absolutely.
Right? So that is a huge word. And yes, especially when you are in a corporate executive position, you feel pressure as a woman. You feel pressure as a minority. You feel pressure that if I share that there's anything going on in my personal life, like I'm balancing motherhood, my kid is sick today, I've got to figure out who's going to pick him up with my husband and all. You are afraid to be vulnerable and share that because you feel like it could create, some judgment or some, just there's this, scrutiny on that, especially as a woman. And so I find that when you are really trying to build and maintain that corporate executive image, that sometimes what happens is that there are no boundaries because you do so much to make sure that you are winning in corporate, because so much of our identity is attached to that. And then we lack the balance in motherhood, because then you come home and you don't have the energy for your children. So now you're shorter. You don't have the energy for your spouse, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay. And you don't have time to be able to spend in the Word, and you don't have time to spend in the, you're like, oh man, this extra mommy gut is getting to me, but you don't have time to get into the gym or do your exercise or whatever. And so again, those boundaries and that balance come into that conflict. And what I have found that has worked best for me, balance for me is achieved. We know that it is the reality that you can't give 100% to everything. So
absolutely,
balance and literally trying to equate that to, I am doing everything I can successfully in life and everything I can successfully in motherhood, and having brunch with my girlfriends, and I'm in the boardroom on Wednesday and all of that stuff. That doesn't exist, because the balance has to start with you. Because if you are not your best self, you can't be good to anyone. So I come back to the way that I have found that I was able to do my best is by doing a very simple activity each day, which is one, setting 3 priorities that if I get these 3 things done today, I will feel good. Right? It could be the swallowing the elephant, and maybe those 3 things that day had to do all with work things that had to get done. Maybe it was 2 work things and 1 thing, like I got to make sure that I really get my daughter prepared for her poetry contest. And I just want to really make sure that when I come home, regardless of, I'm not giving her my leftovers, I'm giving her the best so that she's ready for tomorrow. Whatever that is, you make 3 things a priority list each day. And once those 3 things are checked off, you'll find that you feel really good about your success that day.
Absolutely.
More balanced, right? And it allows us, hey guys on Instagram, I'm not ignoring you. I'm trying to balance between Instagram and Facebook. But you will find that internally you feel more balanced.
Absolutely.
Right? And so whatever
Absolutely.
those 3 priorities are, you take the time for that. And that's what's worked for me.
Absolutely. No, I think that's great. One of the things that I've learned, and this was hard for me, it was the ability to say no.
Wow.
Because I'm so used, and I put a post out today about learning my authentic self, because I have been known to be a people pleaser. Not known, let's just say what it is. I've been a people pleaser. I don't want people to feel like I can't, I won't, I don't want to. So I have overextended myself so many times saying, oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Oh yeah, I'll take care of that. And not realizing that every yes is a commitment. Like, I don't think we realize truly the power of saying yes. So every time I say yes, it's a commitment. And because I'm a woman of my word, I now obligate myself to do that. And so what I had to learn was a polite no is okay. And I don't owe an explanation for no. It's just because I know the capacity that I have. So I know, because I know my capacity, I know when it's time for me to say, I would really love to, but I can't. And when I started to say no, first I got power, because I wasn't empowered. I got my power back, but then I was able to prioritize those things that I wanted to do. And I knew that I wasn't saying no just to be difficult. I was truly saying no because there was something else that I really wanted to do, or something else that I wanted to prioritize. So my no was not rejection to someone. It was me choosing myself, or choosing my family, or choosing whatever that thing is. And that gave me so much power to be in a space where I could say, no, I can't. I'm so sorry. And then for some people, I would say, I can't. Let me see if I can find someone else to help you. Fine, so that it wouldn't feel like, no, I'm just not going to help you at all. It was really me saying, I choose me, because a lot of times in emotional health, especially, we don't choose ourselves.
Yes.
We choose our partners, we choose our partners, we choose our children, we choose our work, we choose our career, we choose our education, we choose our friends, but we don't choose ourselves. And so choosing yourself is a great way to be healthy. And people talk about self-care all the time, and I absolutely agree with self-care, but you don't have to go on a trip to have self-care. Mm-hmm. People, we've made it this big experience when self-care just says, I choose me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I choose me. I choose what I want. I choose what I like. I choose what I enjoy. I choose what I want to listen to. My house is full of kid shows. And sometimes I have to say, turn that off because mommy wants to watch TV. Just choosing me for a moment. That is so empowering.
So you just said so many things. And when you said the kid shows and, mommy wants to watch something, it's like when I go to Starbucks and my kids are like, oh, I get them coffee, which is hot chocolate. And there are some times when I pull up at Starbucks and I'm like, guys, no, you don't get anything. You know why? Because I need a moment for me.
Absolutely.
Is it okay for me to have a moment where I don't have to share everything with you? Yes. Which means I don't want to overpay for chocolate for you.
Hot chocolate, yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, not even Swiss Miss. We have abuelita at home, and I can go make you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, even small things like that, I mean, I know that might seem minor and, that might even seem selfish to some, but just that little moment and just pulling up in Starbucks with all of my kids in the back seat and saying,
no.
Yes.
No, but that's necessary. And it establishes boundaries, because even with children, especially, it also teaches that every time we go somewhere, you may not get it. Remember, we grew up with that. Every time you don't touch anything, you better not put your hand. You're not getting nothing. We were taught that, but we weren't taught it from a perspective of boundaries. We were taught it from a perspective of you just can't have it. Yes. So now to be able to teach the children boundaries and say, well, no, this is a time that mommy is going to get this, or this is a time that daddy's going to get this, is teaching them boundaries that, every time we go somewhere, you're not going to be the priority, and that's okay. And I'm not a bad mommy because I didn't buy you hot chocolate today. I'm not a bad boss because I didn't compliment you today. I am establishing boundaries that work for me, because if I continue to do it all the time, the one time I don't do it, you're going to tell yourself a story about why I didn't do it.
Why I didn't. Yes.
And so now you're in a different space thinking, okay, Joy didn't speak to me today because she's upset with me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's important to understand that it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to have balance. That's the most liberating thing I think you can do for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'd love to just also follow up on something else that you said.
Yeah.
Hey guys, people are waving. Let me wave back. You said that it is okay to say no and to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Someone, a leadership coach that is just phenomenal. Her name is Jan. She is with Gravitas Leadership, and oh my gosh, she's just incredible. And Jan Griffith has told me, she said, Crystal, no is a full sentence.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
And she also shared with me, she said one day, because we were on conference calls, and she said, have you ever noticed that when you come onto a conference call, you're like, hey guys, sorry I'm late, and she's like, you don't owe anybody an explanation.
Yeah.
She was like, men don't do that. Mm-hmm. She was like, if you're in a boardroom, if you're in a meeting, if you're in the workplace, when a man comes in late, he's like, hey guys, he sits down, he gets to it. Mm-hmm. He gets on the phone and he joins. Men don't typically apologize for the behavior, but a woman will come in and say, oh, I'm so sorry that last call ran over. I was in this other meeting. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And you get this, we give this explanation, and men don't explain themselves.
No,
and you don't have to. And in leadership, especially as a woman executive, stop apologizing.
Yeah.
No is a full sentence. And the second thing that she taught me is you don't have to explain yourself.
That's good. Yeah.
If you show up to a meeting and you're a few minutes late, they don't need to know why. You simply say, hey guys, thanks for waiting. Absolutely.
Now that's what I was going to say. That's what I learned is instead of saying, hey, thanks for waiting. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being patient, because, and so it's funny. My husband and I had that conversation. He was like, I think that's a little arrogant. I'm like, no, it's acknowledging that you waited, and it's acknowledging the elephant in the room. I'm late. I know that. But to your point, I don't owe you an explanation from why I'm late. I'm late, and I appreciate the fact that you acknowledge that you see it, and now we can move forward. But versus, I agree. I think as women in general, we do that. We apologize for not being what we think is enough.
Yes.
So we always are making concessions or apologizing or over explaining to try to make other people feel comfortable with our inadequacies instead of us being comfortable with because once we're comfortable with our inadequacies, it's easier. Because now I can walk and do what I want. Listen, I know that this is the situation. I know what I'm capable of. And when I realize that, I no longer have to make excuses or apologize for it. Now I'm just walking in. This is who Joy is. Joy's going to do this. Joy's going to do that. I had a conversation with a lady the other day, and we were face to face. And it was a kind of a crucial, difficult conversation. And she said, why need you to stop using your hands? Mm-hmm. And I said, okay. But why are my hands bothering you? And it was really to understand. And so she felt like me using my hands in a difficult conversation was aggression. And so what I had to explain to her was, I apologize that you feel that way. I'm an expressive person and I use my hands. So I'm not willing. I'll be mindful.
Yes.
But I am not going to stop using my hands as the way I express myself because you have an issue with that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's setting that expectation and setting that boundary, because I could have easily tried to.
Yes.
I would have been uncomfortable. And so the conversation we were having would not have been successful because now I'm uncomfortable. But when I know who I am and I understand it, and you may be uncomfortable or not, I don't have to make excuses. We can talk about it, but I'm okay with it. And I know who I am. So I can walk in it and say, well, that's your issue. I had a boss that used to say that. She was like, there are some things about myself that I'm willing to change, and there's some things I'm not. And I'm going to be clear about what those are. And I will thank you for your feedback, but there are some parts of me that I'm okay with.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't be accountable, but when you know who you are, then you know. And you're kind of like, okay, that's something that, but rather than try to beat myself up about not being this way or not doing this, I acknowledge it and I'm mindful of how people perceive it, but I'm okay and I'm comfortable.
Exactly. I'd love to add to that because you triggered something, and it also reminded me of something you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, that this girl with all the hair. And the same way that our body language can sometimes be perceived aggressively, our hair, especially as Black women, can do the same thing. And so for me, this is something that has helped support me emotionally with health, and which has spilled over into leadership and also into my business. I have always been someone who, in corporate America, was always very compromising of hairstyle, what I wanted to do to express myself. I was very conservative. My hair is naturally curly. I even felt uncomfortable wearing my own just naturally curly hair. I never wore braided styles. I never wore protective styles. And for for non-African American women who may be watching this, protective styles are different types of hair that you can add to your hair while your hair is tied up and secured underneath. And so it protects your hair, and so the hair that people see on top is synthetic hair, and it allows your hair to rest, so you don't manipulate it all the time. And so I was always, and although these are very pretty styles, I was very uncomfortable in a corporate setting wearing these styles because I felt like I was going to be judged and it would be unprofessional. And in 2020, I stepped into authenticity, and I said, I am no longer being unapologetic for being me. Because my entire life, I've always been apologetic for being me. I've been apologetic for being biracial. Because I was never Black enough. I was never Hispanic enough, right? I remember literally coming to being a freshman at Tennessee State University and not speaking like all my other friends, and I had this Valley Girl playing, and everybody's like, that's the girl from California, and so when I pledged, and I was like, she's the girl from Trinidad, and I'm like, I'm like, no, like can I just be down? Like, can I not be Black? I even remember, and it even took me back to my childhood, my youth, when we first migrated from Trinidad here to the United States. Nashville was the first city that we lived in. And I remember having a Caribbean accent and coming to the South and kids making fun of my accent. And to me, it sounded like people talk like this. And so I literally started talking like this. It was a very exaggerated Southern accent. And so I diluted my authentic self, my heritage, my culture, instead of being embraced and being able to share something with others. Just even from that point. So I just felt like all my life I have always been suppressing myself and being inauthentic to me. Yes, and absolutely. I didn't realize how that affected me mentally until I remember actually even being in college. Natural hairstyles are more accepted even in minority communities now. And I remember being in college and I had blonde hair. I had like sandy brown hair with blonde highlights. And I remember wearing my natural hair one day, and one of my friends called me the Lion King. Said, you look like the Lion King. Like you look like, like a mane. And your hair looks like a lion's mane. And I was like, I actually thought my hair was kind of cute, like I got these little waves and curls. And it was kind of cute. And I was feeling myself. I was like, I didn't have to go sit under rollers and stuff. Like my hair is naturally curly, and that wasn't embraced. And then I remember like 15 years later, now everyone's wearing natural styles, and this same person is wearing their hair natural. And I was like, girl, do you remember when you looked like and it triggered something, right? And I was like, oh, and then I realized that those triggers were emotional triggers, and it was a part of my emotional health that was lacking, and it was not healthy. And I had to do something for me. And so in 2020, this had nothing to do with COVID. I literally, you make your resolutions and all of this stuff. I said in 2020, it was my year of being unapologetically me. And now, a different conversation was had with a friend. If she said to me like 2 weeks ago, she was like, I don't remember the last time I saw your real hair. And I'm like, y'all go get all of it. Right. You're going to see all of this African design.
Exactly.
And, and I'm like, I will wear an African fabric blazer now to a meeting. I will wear my hair in a natural style. I will wear these are passion twists. Thank God. Look, I'm still learning, y'all. Because I had to wait 40 years to be able to do my hair like this. So I'm still learning, y'all. Thank you for passion twists. But I say all that to say that was something that was so liberating for me.
Absolutely.
And I can walk into a meeting now, whether it be on Zoom or in person, now that the world is opening back up. And I am 100% confident in me because I know what's in here. It has nothing to do with what's on here or what I'm wearing. And if this intimidates you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that my presence intimidates you. But what we're here to discuss, I am here to help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's focus on what's important, which is the subject at hand. And let's, and obviously this is not a real conversation, but in my mind, this is
absolutely
conversation I'm having. If my hair offends you, if my African blazer offends you, I'm sorry. But hopefully that does not interrupt the core of the conversation, because what's in here can really make a difference.
And the good thing about when you're unapologetically who you are, like I said, I struggle with this even still as a coach, even still as a speaker. It's easy to see other people and see what they're doing and then start to migrate in that direction. And, thank God that he's like, listen, lady, that's not what I have for you. Come back this way. But what I'm realizing is even in those moments, there are people who will be drawn to exactly who you are. So rather than spend your time trying to be something else so that the people that you think you need to attract will be attracted, if you are confident in your skin, your hair, like I tell people all the time, my children, one of my daughters the other day, somebody in our family joked with her, which I didn't care for much, but said, "Oh, you're going to need braces." And my baby just bawled. She was crying so hard about braces. And so I had to, at 7, had to teach her, no, you're perfect just the way you are. And I was like, listen, mommy needed braces. Look at this gap. I needed braces. Okay. Look at this crook. I needed braces. But I was always taught that God made me exactly how I'm supposed to be. And so if we need braces for a health reason, that's different. But for a cosmetic reason, we're okay. And listen, we're only 7. Okay. It's not that critical anyway, but really saying you are okay. And we don't give ourselves permission or understand that to say, you know what, I'm okay exactly the way I am. And the people who I'm supposed to work with will gravitate to me. There are people who will probably never have worked with me, but because my assignment is to them, they're coming no matter what I look like. Because I resonate with you. I've been natural since 99. And people always say to me, well, when did you go natural? I was like, listen, I was natural before it was a movement. Like, I graduated from college in 2002 with this same hairstyle, so it works for me. But I struggle with that too. I walk in a room sometimes and I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? Because this is how I show up. And although I know who I am and I'm comfortable with it, there are a number of stereotypes that we could talk about just based on the way that I look. So I no longer am overcompensating for it. I act like I have hair down my back when I walk in the room. If that's what you need to see, then that's what and I may flip it on occasion, just because I recognize that this is who I am. And I'm so comfortable in my skin. I'm so comfortable in who I am that I no longer have to feel intimidated or even make you feel comfortable with me. Because a lot of times I think we do that too. I'm going to speak differently. I'm going to move differently. I'm going to dress differently so that you're comfortable with me.
Yes.
When the issue is really you. It has nothing to do with me. The issue is really you. So I choose to be healthy in that regard. I choose to be completely healthy in knowing who I am and being comfortable and confident in who I am and letting the people who are supposed to come, because I think we also think everybody that we come in contact with is assigned to us. And that's not true. That's not true. So the people who are assigned to you will come to you and they will look at you and they will see in you more than what you are. And that's why they'll be attracted to you. And so many times we forget that piece, especially in coaching. We believe everybody who's come is going to be a client. Not necessarily, So coaches out there, rule number 1, everybody that you talk to will not be a client. Let's just put that out there.
Yes.
but those who are assigned to you will come. And that's the blessing in how it all works. So I got another question. Let's talk about mental health.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about, so how as a leader can you find or be mentally healthy?
So it first starts with rest, because as leaders, we don't get enough rest.
That's true.
You know, there's this cliche quote when you're speaking to someone in leadership, and, you know, sometimes you're trying to get to that next level or break through that next horizon. You ask them the question, what keeps you up at night? So we set the precedent that leaders don't really rest.
That's
and
good.
I think that for mental health, the first and foremost, most important thing is to rest. And whether that rest is, it's a combination of things, right? So it's the sleep that you get at night, and to actually get restful, peaceful sleep. And in order to do that, we have to disconnect. We have to take these devices and we have to put them in another room. We don't keep televisions in our bedroom. And my children know that, because the bedroom for sleep, that includes your phone, right? I put my phone on the, you know, on the counter and, you know, outside of the room. And I make sure that if I need to hear my alarm, if I need to hear it, I make sure the ringtone is up loud. But, you know, just doing simple things like putting my phone on Do Not Disturb. I have it set that if there are multiple calls that come in from the same number, it will ring because there could be an emergency. But putting my phone on Do Not Disturb and putting it out of the room. Things like that minimize the radio waves that are coming in to allow you to have a more restful sleep. And so that simple physical rest is important, right? And, you know, and we know that it doesn't necessarily always equate to a number, because sometimes you can take a short nap or you can have a few hours sleep and you wake up feeling so refreshed.
You've been sleeping for 12 hours.
Yeah, but it's the quality of sleep, not just the numerical amount of sleep. So I believe that your mental health is truly supported by adequate rest. And then the other part of it goes back to when I said that I believe that with healthy leadership, it's all about balance and boundaries. It's about finding the balance and the boundaries to actually be able to take vacations or do something in a space that allows you to be at rest. And so, you know, whether that's vacations, whether that's yoga and meditation, whether for you that is art and drawing, it's time listening to music, whatever that looks like, reading a good book, but you have to give yourself the opportunity to have space to rest. For me, I know you said earlier that it's not always about a vacation. For me, it's anywhere there's water, because when I see water, I see God. The ocean for me is for me a physical manifestation of God, because here you have water, something that is more than 70% of the earth, the oceans, right? And the water nourishes not only the planet, but it nourishes our body. We are majority made up of water. You can drink water and it can nourish you. You can take water and you can get a splash of water, it can irritate you. But it feeds the plants, it feeds your body. But at the same time, that power can also destroy you. And it is literally a physical manifestation of God, because there's God's omnipresence, because he's in everything, right? And so this massive presence of the ocean is that you can't see any boundaries on, right? Because you can't see to the end of the left or the right or the top or the bottom. It's, this vastness of ocean. And then you think about what this water does. It can be so nourishing, and it can be how God nourishes our soul and how he takes care of us, because that's what the water is there for. But at the same time, that water can be a tsunami or a wave or a hurricane, and it can destroy everything. So you have to respect it.
You have to respect, that's good.
You have to respect it. And so for me, it is so important for me to find time with water, and specifically the ocean and space. And then there's that added, holistic benefit of salt water and salt air going into increasing inflammation and all that other great stuff that comes along with it. But I would say that is huge for my mental health. But it really starts with the foundation of rest.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say that is really important is that as leaders, we are used to taking on everything. We take on our employees, we take on our children, we take on our coachees, we take on whatever it is that that they have going on, because we're trying to help them through whatever that step is, that next step, so that they can see their breakthroughs. But we take on a lot. And so as a result of that, what we don't always do is find place for us to be able to let go, release, unleash some of our stress, our concerns, our thoughts. So being able to also find support, whether that be in mentorship, whether that be in coaching, whether that be in church, whether that be in some, we have to, but what I wanted to get to was therapy. Like that is okay. Because particularly in the African American community, when you've got something going on mentally, the first thing is, girl, we're gonna pray for you. We don't, girl, I'm gonna pray for you. And I saw a meme the other day that said, when a Black person says they're gonna pray for you, that was the prayer. And all of those things have a place, but it is the ability to also release. So I will summarize that in saying that for me, mental health and leadership results in rest and release. You have to know where you can find spaces to have true rest in all of those different ways and to release in all of those different ways.
That's awesome. And I think absolutely. Now, I don't have to have an ocean, but I love to read. Yes. And so I want a good book, and I tell people this all the time. I want a good book that is not a self-help book, that is not a coaching book. I don't want anything that has anything to do with the work that I do. I want a book that is just exciting and engaging, the page turner. I want a physical book with physical, actual pages. And I want a space that I can read. And my second thing for me is therapy. I am a big proponent of therapy. I believe that God created therapists. And as much as our friends and our family and our moms and our husbands or spouses or partners want to be our therapists, the truth of the matter is there are people who are equipped to help you navigate some of this. So like for me, I'll tell you, my biggest mental struggle was I would work all day. And I would come home. And when I would come home, I would keep working. And I don't mean keep working my job. I now have turned on mommyhood. So pick the girls up from daycare, get home, got to make sure food is ready, got to do. So I was lining up a ton of different things to do. And my husband would come home and he would kiss us and go sit in the room and sit there. And I would get angry and resent him because don't you see all these things that have to go on around here? Why are you not moving? Why are you not helping? And what my therapist said was, you deserve a moment to yourself. So take it. So she said, and take it to the degree, for me, it was change out of your work clothes. Because while you're still in your work clothes, you're still in work mode. So just by taking off your work clothes, that changes where you are in the space that you're in. So it triggers your mind to tell you you're at home. So put on home clothes and release that work mentality, that work mode, and then stop. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to sit. It's okay to not run right to the kitchen. It's okay for the kids to flip in the middle of the floor while you take a moment and woosah. And I never gave myself permission to do that. I felt like everything had to keep running. And she asked me, what would happen if you didn't do it? What would happen? And then I was like, well, it won't get done. She said, or maybe it's just either not necessary right now, or it will get done, but because you've been doing it, nobody else is doing it. And I tell you, I think that might have helped my marriage, because guess what? My husband does stuff. It's like, oh my goodness. Hey guys, thank you. But I never did. I never released. For me, it's control. I never released the control. So I was used to doing it all. And I'm in therapy crying and boohooing because I'm overwhelmed. I'm overworked. I'm stressed. And I realized it was self-inflicted.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the weight of the world was me carrying it, not people asking me to. It's just me saying, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do this. And even driving home from work, I was thinking of all the things that can be done. So I had a to-do list just for the house. And she said, leave the dishes in the sink. It's okay. Yeah. Or she's like, or better yet, put them in the dishwasher. Instead of, I was hand washing dishes. Okay, listen, people, I had a problem, right? I was hand washing dishes. And she was like, throw them in the dishwasher. Use paper plates. Like, there were so many alternatives that really freed me from the bondage of, and I said it yesterday, bondage of perfectionism. Like, I had this idea of what it meant to be a wife, of what it meant to be a mother, what it meant to be an executive. And so I was executing all of these thoughts that were nothing but bondage for me. And so now I'm stressed, I'm overworked, I'm snapping at people, I'm unfulfilled, I'm crying every day. I don't know why I'm crying, just emotional wreck. And what I had to realize was, relax.
Yes.
You like to read, Joy, pick up a book, go sit outside. Your children will be fine. Your husband's in the house with them. They'll be fine. Or even if they come outside with you, read and say, you know what, mommy's reading.
Yes.
And I'll be darned if those little children didn't respect that.
Yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, who are these? So I realized just by communicating some of those things, it helped me emotionally, it helped me mentally, because now I'm not keeping it all in my head or saying I need help.
Yes. Yes.
Because we don't love help.
Yes, I love that. And that too, there's a word. So that asking for help, because I'm the type of person that I don't like to ask for help. I just kind of do everything. But I've been there with, being resentful to your partner, being like, why are you not doing anything? And I had to learn, someone had to, communicate that to me and say, well, why don't you ask? Make it clear that you need something. Yes. And so I had that conversation. And I think we've heard men say this a lot. They're like, we can't read your mind. Like, men, they would read your mind. Like you are like, well, you see this. Like, why don't you do that? And, in your mind, you're thinking, you see me. Men are just wired differently. And so I had to just start communicating. And so I just started asking. And at first it was difficult because I felt like, oh gosh, like I don't want to. Well, I went through phases, right? It was the resentment of, I don't even want, it was that I don't want to ask. And then there was the resentment of, I'm not asking, but you're not doing. And then there was the relational part of, oh, am I asking too much? I'm asking you to help, or I'm asking you to do more. And then I, through some therapy as well, I was, the light bulb went off, the aha moment of, hey, you deserve help. And this is a partnership. And Absolutely. There are two parents for a reason, and everything does have to fall on you. And it's okay to communicate and ask for the help that you need. And so now I'm like, can you go put the baby in the bathtub? And it's like, okay, so you didn't dress the baby in pajamas. The baby is just in, a pamper. Can you put lotion on the baby and put the baby in pajamas and then go put the baby to bed? Like, I'm okay with saying all of that. Okay, but then I'm like, I need to get some work done. Can you take care of dinner tonight? And like, I don't have a problem saying that. And now I don't, because I realize I'm like, I deserve that too.
Absolutely.
I deserve to have that same moment to be able to sit in front of the television and watch ESPN or catch up on Simpsons, right? Like, I want to catch up on Simpsons.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
You want to catch up on ESPN, but I guarantee you it's going to replay again in 13 minutes, the exact same thing that they said.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. No. Yes. But we don't. And for me, it was a challenge because asking for help made me feel weak.
Yes.
It really made me feel like the persona of the leader, the wife, the mother, the this that I am, I'm chipping away at that because now I need help. And I realize the person who asks for help is more powerful than the person who doesn't and is trying to do it on their own. I never thought about that. I felt like if I wasn't being 100% mom, 100% wife, 100% executive, 100% speaker, 100% coach, if I wasn't doing that I was inadequate or I was weak. And so now, now I have no problem. I just had a conversation with a lady that's doing some business work for me. And we were talking about some things. And I said to her, okay, I could do that, but it would really help me if you did it. And not because I can't design, not because I can't create, but because I know that the amount of effort it would take me to do that is a lot.
Yes.
When I have somebody who's saying, hey, what do you need me to do? So I'm like, oh, now that you asked, and so I've had to tell people when they work with me, sometimes I may not always say what I need, but if you ask me how you can help me, then that triggers me to say, let me tell you, versus me, because I'm still in my mind going, I got to do this, I got to do this. So I'm not thinking about delegation at this point. I'm thinking about execution and getting it done. And of course, I know at the end I'm going to be frustrated and all of that, but I'm thinking I've got this, and the amount of effort it's going to take me to tell you what I need done, I can do it myself. Isn't that how we operate? So, but for somebody to say to me, hey, Joy, how can I help you? Then it stops me to say, oh, okay. And now I'm able to articulate it and stop and put it together and then trust them. Because I think the other thing with delegation is we don't trust.
Yes.
We feel a lot of times, if I ask you to do it, it's not going to look like what I want.
Yes. Yes.
So I'd rather do it myself, stress myself out, be unhealthy because I don't trust you. And what does that say to your partner, to your team, to your staff, to your kids, anyone that you're in relationship with, when you won't allow them the space to do the work because you want to do it yourself? It's a lack of trust. It's a lack of trust. And you can't build relationships where there's no trust.
Yeah. Exactly. So once again, some really great points there. So leadership, if as the leader can't do everything. The leader has to be able to be strategic. The leader has to be able to have vision, and the leader has to be able to delegate in order to do that. And so if you're always down in the trenches, you can't see the forest from the trees. And in order to help people grow and to make sure that they don't know if there's a fire going on over here or, there's monsoon going on over here, you have to be in that leadership position. So that delegation is huge. And so, whether that be, I think when we're at work and we're in a leadership role at work, we understand that. But but we don't always translate that once we get home or into other environments because we feel like we have to do. But that delegation is so important. But I want to add a little element here because this is something that I speak to my clients about quite often. And it's about, being that CEO of your business or of your life. And this is where that delegation really comes in and, and that trust. When you say that you're the CEO, so you start a business, right? So this is all my entrepreneur. So you start a business and you're like, oh, I'm the CEO and the founder. Well, are you the CEO? Because when you're the janitor, when you're the bookkeeper, when you're the marketer, when you're the coach, when you're all of these things, you're not able to operate as a CEO. You have to learn to delegate. And we get it, especially as a small business, you don't always have the resources or funding to be able to delegate or outsource all of those things. But you need to always be thinking in that mindset. And the reason that we have a difficult time often letting go and growing and scaling our businesses because we are so tied to the process is because we haven't documented the process.
Absolutely.
So a huge takeaway I want to share, and this has to, and this goes all the way back to the balance and the boundaries. In business, you need to document your journey. You need to document your process. You need to document how you do things. Those are called standard operating procedures. Yes. Right? When you walk into a new job and they train you and they teach you and they say, this is your role, and they give you that handbook, it's because somebody else has taken the time to document.
Absolutely.
You need to do the same thing in your small business.
Absolutely.
Do what you can with what you have, with where you are. And in what you do, document it.
Absolutely.
And it can be as simple as, you're like, I don't have time to type this up. I don't type 200 words a minute. Oh my gosh, where do I start? How art thou I? First step is to, no, you don't have to do that. What you do is you get on Zoom, just like we are now, and you make Zoom record your audio transcript, and you talk through your process, and you extract the audio, the transcription from the Zoom, and you send that to somebody on Fiverr for $35, and you tell them to transcribe it for you. And now you have standard operating procedures with each small business, small business budget. Okay.
Yeah.
And then guess what? The next time you need somebody to do something for you, let me tell you, here you go.
Yeah.
This is how it's done. And then it allows you to build more confidence, that allows you to trust more in somebody being able to execute on the process, so that you can focus on other things, because now they know not just what to do, but how to do it, because that's the most important thing. Is you want it done your way. It's your business. You can do that. That's okay.
Yeah.
But
Listen,
if there's a takeaway I can share today in keeping your mental health and leadership and balance and emotional and all that stuff together, document and delegate.
listen. Okay, if there were an audience here, they would be doing a wave right now, because that was I mean, that's a word, but that's even a blessing and confirmation for me, because I am sitting in that seat right now, and I don't mind typing out my processes. I'm doing that, but you just help me. I ain't got to do that. Yes. So no, but that is absolutely awesome. And these are just, I mean, simple things that we don't think about. And a lot of times we don't have people around us who know our struggle enough to even be able to say that. So I encourage you, if you are a small business owner, if you're a leader, if you're a wife, a mother, find your resources too, because there are so many people with great ideas who've already walked the path, who've already made the mistakes, who've had some successes, who don't mind sharing. So find your network and your community of people so that you can have these types of conversations. And the blessing is we're creating a platform for you to have them, but there are people all in your network that if you just shout out an email or put out a post and said, I need help with, you'll be surprised how many people, but again, you got to be willing to ask. You got to be willing to say, I need some help. I don't have all the answers, especially as an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, it's really hard to say, I don't know, because you're supposed to know, because you're the entrepreneur. You're the entrepreneur, you're supposed to know. But by saying, I don't know, I need help, you will get the resources so that the gaps that you have will be filled. And then you look back and you have the business, you have the plan, you have the team, you have what you want because you've asked for help, and the resources will definitely come.
Absolutely. And if anyone is looking for help, that is what we do at PropelCon. So I am the CEO of PropelCon, and I can confidently say that because I have a team. And I have a team because I got 4 kids, and I just couldn't do it any other way. Yeah. That's my motivation. And so, yes, if you go to propelcon.com, that's propelcon.com, you can also connect. Thank you for sharing that. You can connect with me and, our team of resources, and that is exactly what we do. That is one of the ways that we are focused on helping women to find that balance in business and motherhood, and that is through being able to accelerate your business ventures through not only helping you to develop your authentic voice and connect to your authentic purpose through your business, but also through the tools and resources to get you there. And so, yes, certainly please reach out to us at PropelCon so that we can have those conversations. And may I add one other thing?
Absolutely.
So something that you mentioned earlier when we talk about coaching and when we are these business owners and stuff, one of the other things with creating boundaries, a lot of us have intake calls or conversations, and we tend to have this habit of scheduling an hour, or even if you say it's a 15, 20, or 30-minute call, it ends up going over because you spend your time really trying to sell your services and convince someone. People need help, and if you are a problem solver, your business solves a problem. That conversation can be 15 minutes. It is, what is your problem? You know whether or not your business serves to help them. Don't be, what you want to avoid is, hey, I need business. This is not exactly in the niche of what I do, but I can do that. Yeah. So try to figure this out. If that's not what you do, it's okay to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't, I'm sorry, that doesn't fit within the scope of what we do, but I may have a resource for you.
Absolutely.
But don't spend an hour on the phone trying to get to that point where that person is not your ideal client, either because it is not within your scope of work of what you choose, what you are doing or want to do. Or two, because it's not what they need, right? So don't spend an hour when you know that that's not what you need, and you can be like, you know what, I have somebody, but you know what, I may not be the right fit for you, but I know Joy, but I do know someone, and I'm going to connect you with Joy, right? Absolutely. So we actually had this conversation recently.
Yesterday.
I have background in instructional design. Can I put programs together? Yes, I can. What does Joy do? She is gifted at program development. So is this a client that I want to take on where it may take me more time to develop this program simply because I don't do instructional design daily anymore? It's not what I spend the majority of my time doing. Do I have the skill set, and does it work for me, and I can help others with it? Sure. But is it what the core of my business to actually take on this project to design this program? No, because that's not what we do. But what I can do is connect you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what did I do? I know someone. Sure.
Yep. And we had that conversation yesterday. Right? But let me.
It's okay to not have to be the expert and everything. And just because you can do something, we're going back to the beginning of the conversation. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Absolutely.
Okay. And it's okay to be a conduit and a blessing to someone else, because
I was about to say that. That is it. That is
and not giving away something. It's not
absolutely.
It's not, dang, I really could have used that $500 or whatever it is. No, because you know what? Your blessings are coming because your right fit client with the project that is designed for you is coming.
Absolutely. No. That's because that brings up another conversation, and we'll be back again to do this. But what that says is you've got to know that what's for you is for you. So releasing something to someone else is an opportunity for something else to flow for you. And even if it doesn't flow for you, you're blessing someone, and in your blessing, that's how you receive. And so many times, especially in the coaching industry and in the professional speaking world, people aren't really very open to share and to say, listen, this isn't for me. Hey, even if it is, it may be a case of, hey, I do this really well, but I don't have the capacity. So rather than it may be, I've got 5 clients right now. Somebody wants to join, and I'm like, hey, I really know that I can't successfully take this person on. So let me get you to a coach who is as good as I am, who I trust, I would work with, so that but we don't do that. We don't trust enough, or we think that every opportunity has to be our opportunity. And we never, ever get to a point where we're like, you know what? Those who are assigned to me will come. Yeah. And even those who are assigned to me, like you said, I may be a conduit. They may not be the people who stay with me, but because I'm able to get them to where they'll remember me, they'll remember I'm the resource. They'll remember those things. So that is absolutely super important as you're building a business, to remember that you're a business, but there's so many other businesses that you have access to that are a better fit or as good as, and the best way to change people's lives is to work together. So you could sit in your own island and be your own person, but there are a number of people who you have access to, who together as a community, you can absolutely change someone's life. So, Crystal, thank you. Okay, you're coming back. I don't know when, but we're going to schedule it. Listen, I have a cheerleader who is watching me. His name is Steven Jackson. He said, love you, wife. Another awesome lunch break. I tell you, people always talk about being a solopreneur, but really and truly, I don't believe you're a solopreneur if you have a spouse or a partner or friends, because they are helping you if it's nothing more than typing right here. So thank you, Steven Jackson. And I want to thank all of you so much for joining us today for another Leadership Lunch Break. Hey, listen, I've got some great news. I am going to be doing something with the Leadership Lunch Break starting July 20th. I've heard people ask why the Leadership Lunch Break is not a podcast. July 20th. The Leadership Lunch Break will become a podcast. So I'm sharing now. You'll see more information about it. Be prepared for it. It's going to be everywhere you can find podcasts. Got some great things coming, some new material. A lot of these people are like, well, how can I hear that again? I want to hear it. I want to see it. So the podcast, I have heard you. Thank you all for the feedback. I'm so glad that you are enjoying it and so glad that it is blessing you and helping you. Thank you, everybody on Facebook, YouTube. We got LinkedIn up finally. Yay. Thank you all so very much for joining us. You see how to find Crystal. You see how to find me. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Thursday. And we will do this again very, very soon. So have a wonderful Crystal, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. And we will do this again very soon. Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye.
Thank you for joining the Leadership Lunch Break. Join us next Thursday at noon Central Standard Time for lunch as we continue our discussions. Follow Speaking of Joy on all social media platforms or visit our website at www.speakingofjoy.com. That's www.speakingofjoye.com. Until next week.